Hello, I'm Gator McKlusky. After waiting what seems like 3 years, I'm about to finally see the highly anticipated The Many Saints of Newark. My thoughts on this as I enter the theater, for me, are to kind of curtail my expectations. See, the great David Chase has given the fans something we've begged for a long time. Hopefully that he doesn't disappoint us, because sometimes we expect something on the level of Scorsese's Goodfellas. But I'm thinking it's going to be closer to maybe...
It says with pulp.
You like it with pulp?
Not this much.
the average episode of The Sopranos.
I like the one that says some pulp.
Keep in mind that when the series originally aired week to week, most of us would often be disappointed when discussing that particular week's episode around the water cooler on Monday. You know, you'd hear things like, I can't believe they didn't whack anybody this week, and I bet that Russian's gonna come back and get Chrissy or Paulie. So over time, those disappointing episodes, they became episodes we loved, and every little plot twist and even the horrible music they'd use sometimes during the end credits, we just started to grow to love it. See, David Chase is not an established filmmaker. He's more of a TV episode guy. Apparently, Chase wanted to direct this film, but for personal reasons in his life, he had to hand the film over to Alan Taylor. And Taylor was a director of 9 great episodes and one of David's favorite directors. And Taylor would go on to direct some other great series, including Boardwalk Empire, Game of Thrones, Mad Men, Nurse Jackie, which is excellent. But here's the kicker. As a feature film director, Taylor did one of the worst Marvel films in Thor: The Dark World, and another terrible sequel, Terminator Genesis. Those are really only his 2 film credits. That doesn't mean he can't direct a fantastic film that would win an Oscar, but for me, I'm keeping my expectations low for this film.
You're all over the place. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Also considering that a lot of time has passed since the series ended.
He's saying the Framus intersects with the Ramistan approximately at the Paternoster.
And we're all incredibly pumped for the greatest hits of 10 years of our favorite show.
Oh, look at that. It's like an ad for a weight loss center. Before and way before.
Jammed into a 2-hour spectacle.
This guy ever stop breaking balls?
If that's where your head's at, expect to be very disappointed. I can almost guarantee that. And this is coming from someone who hasn't even seen the movie yet. Our early reviews are mixed, and my guess is that the fan base will need to see this film several times in order to appreciate what they've been given.
What do you want, Richard? I'll be honest with you.
I want money.
I want to do a good deed.
I will be seeing it on the big screen now. First showing, opening day. And I've counted the years, hours, and minutes approaching this exciting chapter in the mind of David Chase.
Maybe an ambassador to England or France.
You're my nephew.
One last thing. It seems Chase was really looking forward to directing a mob picture for the big screen. He was incredibly disappointed to miss out on this opportunity as he had some family issues. Hopefully it inspires him to do another origin story, because there's a period of time between where Saints ends and The Sopranos began that could focus on Carmine and Jackie, Uncle June, and Tony's rise to becoming a capo. Flashbacks in certain episodes of the series show a time when Jackie was in charge and Tony was just a captain. So there's another story to tell, and Chase wants to direct a big screen mob feature. So a successful Saints release will generate all the passion for him to do that thing. And who doesn't want that? Hopefully I enjoy the film, and for heaven's sake, get out to the theater to see it. HBO Max should only be used for second and third viewings of this or any big feature release, in my humble and useless opinion. Catch you later. Gator out.
Wow. That's a lot to absorb. Wow.
Okay. Say hello.
Hello. I'm Gator McKlusky.
I'm Gator McKlusky. I just walked out of the theater. Yeah, it's a lot to absorb. I'll tell you one thing, though. I will go to battle with anybody that tries to say that was not a good movie. Was it everything I had hoped for? No. I think there's some issues with it, but it's going to take repeat viewings, of course, to really gather my feelings about it, but I'll throw a few things out there. Michael Gandolfini.
Hey, jerk off. What'd you say? What?
Man, that kid is unbelievable. He's a star. His mannerisms, and they're not his mannerisms because he is James Gandolfini's son. He worked on that because James Gandolfini, believe it or not, played a character in Tony Soprano. That was not James Gandolfini in The Sopranos. That was Tony Soprano. So what Michael Gandolfini did deserves incredible praise. I'm just like blown away by that kid. And that's my first issue with the film. Wasn't enough of him.
I want to go to college. I can't get caught with shit like this.
And I understand this was the Dickie Moltisanti story. And unfortunately, the actor that played him,
I'm listening. Stay out of his life.
when he was on screen, it kind of slowed the movie down. There's a plane up ahead. I'll let you see that.
Gotta do something about Dickie Moltisanti.
The whole Newark riots thing was okay. His love relationship with his Guma and bringing Christopher into the world and all of that was okay.
Some babies, when they come into the world, know all kinds of things from the other side.
Trying not to spoil anything too much for you, but I'm sure most of you have seen it by now.
On the basis of the Sanford Binet, he's high IQ.
You can't prove it by me. He's got a D+ average.
This is just my first reaction.
He only listens to Dickie.
One thing I really did not like is the casting of Silvio Dante. Little too much of a caricature. I'm gonna say he was probably a little bit over the top. The fellow that played Paulie was very good. Most of the other ones were good, but Silvio was a little bit distracting. I feel like Steven Van Zandt, the way he portrayed him would have been exaggerated as he got older.
Things might be a little different, Paulie.
But you would imagine that as a young man, those characteristics would be minimal.
For me, it started with the put a puss he has, that's kind of the frown he has.
He exaggerated to the point where he was almost more quirky as a young man than he was as an old. And I think as an old man, you would be increasingly quirky. I don't think he nailed it. I think he overdid it a little bit.
You know, I try so hard.
There was one moment that brought a tear to my eye, and that's hard to do in a film like this. One scene in this movie with Dickie Moltisanti trying to struggle with bringing Michael Gandolfini's Tony Soprano into the mob world really hit me hard. Anybody that's seen the movie, there's a scene where Michael's banging on a door. The look on Dickie's face is just amazing acting right there.
I went through all that trouble, and for what?
Not enough Livia. I thought we would get more Livia in this. She was great, but not enough of her. Could have been more. Yeah, so that's my initial feeling. I heard some people say that there wasn't enough violence in it. I used to always hear that about The Sopranos. Oh, wasn't enough violence in that episode. You know what? There was just the right amount. When there was violence, it was done really well. The gun shootouts, some of the hits, they were really good, top notch. Over time, I will, like everyone else, develop a better idea of how I feel about this film.
Takes a toll.
But my initial reaction walking out of this theater is, that was a very good movie.
I want to do whatever I can to help the family.
Not a best picture.
Antonio Soprano.
Not as good as The Sopranos.
So what, no ZD now?
Hey!
But Michael Gandolfini, man, what you did to honor your father, every son who's lost their dad, and I'm one of them, appreciates what you pulled off, kid. Nice job. Gator, out. Okay, so after a good night's rest, I woke up this morning, no pun intended. I got myself a gun. Stop, Gator, stop. A couple more thoughts on this film that I felt the need to share. First off, as much as I loved hearing Chris Moltisanti's voice opening up the film, there were Two odd things about it. First off, they spoil a key plot point from the series for anyone who hasn't seen all 6 seasons of The Sopranos. Second, we hear Chrissy's narration a couple of times, and it seems odd as the film really isn't about him. I mean, Goodfellas had Henry Hill's narration, and that made sense because that story was all about him. Also, in typical David Chase fashion, the story ends with a main character's fate sort of unresolved. While I'm a huge fan of the Tony Soprano blackout ending, don't stop. This unfulfilling close to the story of Harold, played by Leslie Odom Jr., who was exceptional, by the way, kind of demands a sequel. Also, I forgot to mention Ray Liotta. Now, his bipolar performance was brilliant. I wouldn't be shocked if Ray is nominated for an Oscar along with Michael Gandolfini. Liotta was actually asked to play Ralphie years ago, but turned it down. And he's somebody that David Chase wanted to work with for years, and he gave the highest quality performance in this picture in my view. He provided the light and the dark side mob life to Dickie. I also forgot to mention Uncle June. He was fantastic and probably presented the biggest laugh in the theater that I was in. Something was revealed about his character that will really shock fans of the series. Great stuff. And finally, I think the main thing that stands out for me that separates this film from the series is the humor. Many would argue that The Sopranos is basically a comedy with drama wrapped in.
I got nothing.
The dark humor of the series is really what made it special.
Guy was an interior decorator.
His house looked like shit.
I didn't get much of that light-hearted banter in this film that would make it feel like it was part of the classic series. Perhaps that was intentional, but I wish they would have embedded more of that dark comedy that elevated The Sopranos to the top of most of our lists for the greatest of all time series.
Look, they're trying to fly.
I think that's it. And that's only after one viewing, so please let me know in the comments section your thoughts of this amazing chapter in The Sopranos' history. I know this film is going to polarize the fan base and lead to deep, intense discussions, and that's what's great about the movies. That's why I started this channel. With that, I leave you with one final. Gator, out. Right? That's the last one? Yeah, last one. Just checking. All right, one more. Watch for new movie reviews and documentary series. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell so you know when new reviews arrive.